Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Brian. This is my 1962 Chevy C-10 pickup truck. I've had this for about 20 years. When I got it, it was pretty rough. It had starting issues, running issues, etc. I got that pretty much sorted out. I put a starter in it way back then and discovered a bunch of house wiring and wire nuts and all that. And that starter's been pretty reliable up until recently. I haven't driven it much lately because it's like 90 degrees here every day and there's no air conditioning. Plus, pretty much every day you start it now, you have to bang on the starter with a hammer to get it to start. It was where you maybe once a month you'd have to bang on and you'd be good, but now you can't even make it through the day. So instead of laying in a parking lot somewhere banging on the starter, I just haven't been driving it. But it's time I need to get this thing fixed. So let's see if we can figure out what's happening. Under the hood is what I believe to be the original Chevy 283. She's pretty tired at this point, but one of these days we'll pull it out and rebuild it. But generally, it's pretty reliable. Honestly, I could probably take this truck from coast to coast with no issues other than about a quart of oil every couple hundred miles, because she's got some pretty serious blow-by. It's really the only issue it has. I've added overdrive transmission, so it's not too bad going down the road. Other than the starting thing, let me show you. In an ideal world, you would insert a key here, but that function's pretty much been deleted, so I need to replace that lock cylinder. Generally, you'd pump it about 50 times because it sat so long, but let's see if it makes a liar out of me. Normally, you turn the key and nothing happens. The starter is way down there, so I'm gonna have to jack it up and we'll get a test light on there and make sure we're getting the right signal to the starter to make it start, do the basic troubleshooting. So right there's the starter. Not that it's important for this project, but I'll give you some of my knowledge of these trucks. So this was all new, fresh design in 1960, and the 60 through 62 models were equipped, at least the half tons, were equipped with torsion bars. So there are no coil springs in this truck. The later ones, they switched to standard coil springs. So the torsion bar runs back here, and there's also an X frame. So the frame is shaped like an X. Then it has long trailing arms in the back. That was pretty standard. I mean, up through 72, that was the way it was done. But that sort of makes these earlier trucks undesirable because parts are less available. People think they're... A lot of people will drop this whole front cross member out and put in a later one. But, I don't know, I'm sticking with this. It rides really well. Anyway, up in here's our starter. All slimy as it is, and you can see the track marks all over it from us beating on it. Way up there we should have, if I can show it, we should have battery voltage, and we do. We should have nothing. We have ground on the starter wire. So this wire should energize and pull in this switch, which should allow the starter motor to run. So I'll get a jumper wire and we'll get this where you can see it, and we'll make sure we're getting power down here. So I've recruited a helper. Okay, go ahead. Let off. Again. Let off. Okay. So in general, that was not what I was expecting to happen. This test light, probably the light's washing it out, but so the bottom light right there, when I touch something grounded, it turns green, which that terminal's green right now. The main battery terminal is red, so it's hot. So in theory, if I run this short distance across there, it should crank because I'm taking power from this terminal, which has ground, and turned to nothing, over to this terminal. Unless I'm missing a wiring terminal somewhere. Let me look a little closer. So I was on the wrong. There again. All right, go ahead. Again. So we're not getting power down. Ugh. Rain. To be continued. So where I was going with this, anyway, it's the next weekend. I found my wiring diagram. This is probably going to be all washed out. You're not going to be able to see this. But purple wire should go down to the starter, and there's a connector, bulkhead connector up here. So I was going to check the connections there. Not sure if you can see this, but this connector is actually not really fitted in the bulkhead rubber piece that it needs to be. But I was able to get an alligator clip in there on the purple wire, which is the wire that goes down to the starter. The purple wire activates the starter. So after I probed it like that, I went to turn to see if the light was turning red right there, and it miraculously did that. So guess we'll have a pretty short video on our hands. So I'm going to make the assumption I've got a bad connection in that plug right there. So while we're here, I'll go ahead and pull that apart, clean that up real well, and then this portion of the plug is supposed to be in this grommet on the firewall, which is completely rock hard. So as I recall, I never could get that connector to fit in there. I had purchased years ago a connector, well, a grommet kit for the firewall, and I believe one of those is it. So at least those are the ones I haven't used yet. So we'll clean that up and figure out how we can get to that and get it in. So I cleaned that off. I don't have it back in the grommet yet. The connections didn't look too bad down in there. But I got a lead on a wood chipper, so let's make sure, which I've been looking for quite some time. So let's make sure it'll actually start, and we'll take it off the jack stands and perhaps go check out a wood chipper. It's going to take it a while because typically all the fuel drains back to the tank. Of course, it stopped again. Let me mess with this plug. See if she'll crank again. Usually it doesn't do that. Usually once it spins over for the first time, you're good. Let me make sure I'm getting fuel. It's been a while since she's run. Yeah, I know these air cleaners suck, but that's what I have for now. Let's hope I haven't screwed up something else, like ignition related, during all this. So obviously it has spark. We're not getting fuel. As I said, it likes to drain back. Plus, it's been jacked up like this for a while, and I usually don't run too much fuel in here. Let's make sure the fuel pump hasn't decided to give up the ghost. Can't imagine why it would have. Since I may not be able to see this, we'll use this crude method. Maybe you can see it. I would say our fuel pump's not functioning properly, which is odd because that's normally not an issue. We'll give her a few more cranks. We'll give it another little shot to help it spin faster too. I saw fuel finally that time. Now she ought to go. clearly this connector is going to need some more help. Are you kidding me? That's how it normally starts. We'll let it sit and run for a minute, and then we'll go on our wood chipper quest. So we're back with a wood chipper. What the guy didn't really allude to was the carburetor's jacked up, but I can probably clean that. That should be a separate video. The truck worked every time. So I took those connections and hosed them down with some PB Blaster, and they're a little rusty, so I'll get in there and try to sand them. Then we'll deal with that, but it's still pretty hot. And in the meantime, I think, can't really remember the last time I changed the oil in this. Since you kind of do a running oil change, it has so much blow by, usually smoke comes out of there. And I don't change it very often, but it's probably been a few years, so I'm gonna go hunt down some oil. We'll change the oil while we're waiting for that to cool. So I don't have enough hands to get the camera in close enough where you can see, but this bottom terminal is the purple wire, and that's the one that operates the starter. I scraped a little bit off there, but it was pretty green and corroded. So I'm going to take a flat screwdriver and scrape all that corrosion off all those. And then I'm going to work on prying this hard as a rock grommet out of here. I might be able to show some of that. Now I'll have to go look in that kit and figure out which one's which. And if I can get it peeled out from around there. I was able to wrestle that grommet in there and get that connector on. Part of the other connector kind of shattered off after being 60 years old. Right there, but I mean, luckily that's a location with no wire in it. But I'm going to see if I can find maybe some new connectors and replace these. That might be an engine rebuild time project. Anyway, let's change the oil. Okay, folks. Sorry for the glare. I don't know if that makes it any better or not. It's been about a week. I also treated this to an oil change since I don't remember the last time I did it with some of that. Let's see if it'll start. In its previous condition, after sitting a week, nothing would happen. So let's see if we fixed anything. All right, that's a good sign. I looked into that connector. You can't buy it separate. The only way is to buy a whole harness. I'm not really in the mood to do that right now. So while we still have this up on jack stands, I'm gonna get a grease gun and hit everything underneath, since I don't remember the last time I did that either. So everything's all greased up. These control arms have kind of a metal bushing in them. It's not rubber. It screws in and there's grease in there. And also, these lower ball joints, they're the part that make this front end expensive because they're a 2-year only part. And those, when I replaced these, probably 10, 12 years ago at this point, those were like $110 a piece. So that's why a lot of people change these, spend that parts. The upper ones, that boot's jacked up. Great. Upper ones are specific to this vehicle also, but they're not as expensive. So, there we go. Get this back on the ground. A few things that don't belong on this truck. The engine, I believe, is the original 283. The numbers actually match what would have come with it as far as the model number, which is on this tag, and the date. I've been told these heads aren't correct. I've also been told that they possibly could have come on here. But what's not correct about the heads is they were painted orange, so they've been off at some point. This engine originally would have been gray, like the valve covers. This had a 2-barrel carburetor originally. I got this intake and 4-barrel on eBay, so I could hook up a 700 R4 transmission, and that's what that TV bracket, etc. is, which has in it, gives me an overdrive gear. Also, this would not have had power brakes originally, and it would have been a single pot master cylinder, so I converted it to power brakes with a dual circuit master cylinder, and it now has front discs also. I do not believe this would originally had an alternator. I believe it would have been last year for a generator, although the alternator might have been optional. It was on it when I got it, and I believe it was a Reman one. Actually, a little funny story. They had the wires clipped in there wrong, so it didn't charge. I was able just to bend this prong and make it fit and work. Also, this would have not had power steering originally. I added that by sourcing a bunch of different parts on eBay, used pump, the extra pulley for the front of the damper. It's a later power steering box, and then an adapter bracket to make all that fit. Also relocated the washer fluid bottle. That was, where was it? I think it was up here. Would have been in the way for the big booster. So anyway, and the heater control valve, it's actually pretty rare. This is installed on it, but I do have a heater control valve in there. I found the correct heater core and rebuild kit for the heater control valve, because this has the deluxe heater. Also, this has the deluxe steering wheel, which looks like a car wheel. The regular trucks would have had just a round button. This also has the full gauges in it. Most of them just had idiot lights where those round circles are. And also, this was painted green inside originally, so I tried to replicate what originally looked like with the fawn poly metallic and the cameo white, which is the same as the stripes on the side are supposed to be, and the roof. So there you go. There's a little video about nothing. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.